Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mystics on a Mission show. I am your host, Hannah, and I'm very excited because today I have Erin Telford here. Erin and I have a mutual friend. Her name is Ruby Warrington, and I'm really excited to have her on the show today. She's an incredible healer, acupuncturist, Reiki master, and it's really cool to get the perspective of a healer on the show today. So, Erin is an acupuncturist, Reiki master, breathwork facilitator, teacher, and herbalist in New York City. Her mission is to help people look within and heal their relationships with themselves. She holds safe, sacred space for change through therapeutic conversation, lifestyle and spiritual counseling, essential oils, crystals, and energy clearing tools. She is fiercely committed to doing her own personal work because she knows she can only take her clients as deep and as far as she is willing to go. She was recently featured in Refinery 29 as one of 6 women who are redefining wellness in New York City. Welcome, Erin.
Hi, so happy to be here.
I am very excited too, and I would love to get started by hearing a little bit about your story. What's your start in the wellness industry? How did you get into working as a healer?
So it goes back about 10 years, maybe more, maybe 11. So I moved out to New York originally. I had a really bad breakup, like a really terrible ending of a relationship was an amazing catalyst for me to get out here, which I think is just important to mention because we shy away from discomfort so much. And, pain can be such an amazing catalyst for growth and action and movement. So came out to New York with a broken heart and really was it was such a big push for me to really follow my dreams. So I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And so I came out to work in fashion, ended up working at a couple really amazing luxury fashion houses, but very quickly learned that it just wasn't for me, and it was very deadening and exhausting and unfulfilling. And there was just sort of a series of events that pushed me to a place where I was again, kind of like a reckoning with myself, where I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? This wasn't how I thought it would be. And so it was like another one of those waking up moments in life where you look around at your life and you say, this isn't sustainable. This isn't working. I cannot go on like this. And then you just kind of go, what do I do? What else do I do? And it was one of the most, kind of defining moments for me where I started to kind of cultivate a little bit more of a relationship with spirit, with having faith, with praying, with asking for help. It had always been in my background. I grew up in a family that was very much, open to meditation, and, we were one of the only vegetarian people on the block. We had a lot of alternative healing practices that my mom would use for us, for myself and my brother when we were growing up. So it wasn't new to me, but it wasn't anything that I'd ever really embraced on my own and really took to heart. And so I started really working with those tools of prayer and intention and asking for help and surrendering and having faith and trust. And that led me to acupuncture. It was about 6 months, a very uncomfortable, anxiety-filled 6 months of feeling lost and directionless and confused and tired. But I was really open to seeing the signs, and I got a sign very clearly dropped in my lap to go to acupuncture school. And so that was the beginning of me, I feel, more like reconnecting with the path that I had kind of lost track of, maybe from another life or from another, from a childhood. And so that was just the beginning, enrolling in school. And then since then, it's just really been every time I encounter something that really moves me or changes my life or heals me, then I want to learn that thing. And then I want to share it with other people. Because there's so many great tools out there. There are amazing tools and amazing healing modalities that, can really, really change things. And I want to be able to offer those experiences to people, because sometimes you don't know where to go. You don't know who to see. You don't know who to talk to. And I just want to share my experience and sort of offer people an experience through those lenses.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I think it's so interesting that you started in fashion and then became a healer. I feel like this story, I keep hearing this story. I think Ruby, our friend from the Numinous, also started in fashion. I have a degree in fashion management. It's really interesting how creative types seem to get their start in either graphic design or, I had Erica Jago on the show, and she's a graphic designer, and it's really cool to be talking to her as well. And I feel like that's such a pattern in many like stories from coaches and healers and yoga teachers, is that they started in some kind of creative industry, wanting to express themselves, wanting to create something, wanting to, build something meaningful, and then they realize that they're actually being drawn somewhere else and a little bit more off the beaten path. And it takes so much courage to actually go there. And you also talked a little bit about the challenges that you experienced and how they have opened doors for you. So when you were in that state of anxiety of not knowing what to do with your life, how did acupuncture, help you with that?
Oh, okay. So I hadn't had acupuncture at that point. When I enrolled in school, I'd never even had acupuncture. I committed to a 4-year program and like $100,000 of student loans. I'd never had acupuncture before. So the only thing that was helping me through that challenging time was just my relationship with a higher power. So I was just white knuckling it, that I was not receiving any healing treatments during that time. I was super broke. I was just cultivating from the inside and relying on something outside me. So I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that it helped me during that time. It has helped me since then. So, I mean, discovering acupuncture, I think one of the things that, as far as like one of the main things that I did that I think it did for me in the beginning was that I had identified as being a certain type of person. And I think we all do this, like, oh, I'm just anxious. I'm just a bad sleeper. I just have stomach problems, and you grow up, you become an adult woman and you just make these assumptions that these are all ironclad, set in stone things. Oh, depression runs in my family. I have an addictive personality. Like, we make these proclamations about who we are as if they're sort of like, this is a cement in stone part of our identity, when it's actually not. We're super malleable. We're totally available to transformation. And Chinese medicine gave me that avenue to go, oh, you mean there's actually things you can do about being a bad sleeper? And there's like 6 different kinds of insomnia, and they're all based on different emotional patterns and like deficiencies and excesses in your body. And there's points for that, and there are herbs for that. And there are, adaptogenic herbs, and there are just this whole wealth, this entire pharmacy, and this whole way to work with energy where you can actually just become a good sleeper, or become someone who's really grounded in their body and doesn't feel anxious as much. Or you can become someone who easily digests their food, or you can become someone who doesn't feel depressed as often and can work with it in a constructive way. So it really gave me a new lens to look through life and say, oh, all this stuff that I thought was just who I was is actually totally changeable, totally available to be different. And it just takes me looking inside and like having access to these new tools. So I think that was one of the biggest, like, amazing moments for me with Chinese medicine and working with acupuncture.
That's so cool. So yes. I'm really curious. Can you tell us a little bit more about the specific limiting beliefs and physical ailments and all those things that you needed to overcome in order to live the way you do today?
Okay, say that again. Specific limiting beliefs.
Yeah, so you just talked about things like depression and anxiety and stomach problems. Like, which of these did you have to overcome?
I mean,
on your way here?
All of them. And I'm still working with them. I think that we've got karmically every single person, you, me, anyone who's watching this recording, we all have core limiting beliefs that we've been working with since we were born, maybe since we were in the womb, maybe from another life. So we've got probably, I would say, 2 or 3 physical ones and 2 or 3 emotional ones, 2 or 3 mental ones. They all kind of fall under the same umbrella. The limiting beliefs that are emotional are going to be revealing themselves in a physical way, where we hold our physical pain, where we are less flexible, where we accumulate masses, where we have trouble with our organs. So for me, let's see. All right, I'll just go for it. One for me, a current one that's coming up is not feeling supported, feeling like people don't show up for me. That's been one that I've been working with for probably my whole life. But that also ties in with the idea of not being seen, having difficulty receiving, not wanting to take up space. It's connected to my throat chakra. It's connected to my expression, my willingness to say the truth, my willingness to connect with my anger and be able to use that to work with creating healthy boundaries and saying no, standing up for myself. That's one sort of big emotional kind of karmic one. And I've been working with that since I've been alive. And so all of the different, modalities, for me, my personal healing has just been I just throw everything at it, everything that I'm curious about, everything that makes sense, I just turned 42 last week. So it's decades of, yoga, meditation, essential oils, herbs, acupuncture, breath work, mantra, working with goddesses, working with the shadow, Reiki, hypnosis, astrology, craniosacral work, medical massage, numerology, angels. It's I've been on a huge mission to be able to find a place in my body and in my heart where I can inhabit more joy and more peace and more sweetness and more contentment, and being able to move from a place of strength and solidity, rather than getting when you've got all these unhealed places inside you, you just get triggered all the time. You're just getting jabbed and stabbed and pulled left and right, and someone says something and it sends you into a spiral, and you read something else on social media and it sends you into a spiral, and all of a sudden it just feels totally chaotic inside and terrible. So I feel like I'm getting totally off track with your question, maybe not. But I think that's just the process of healing, is being able to own and identify what you're really working with, especially if it doesn't sound cute, especially if it sounds really terrible and embarrassing and shameful. So I've worked with that. I've worked with that core belief. I've worked with the sleeping stuff. I've worked with anxiety and depression over probably more profoundly over the last, 10 years or so. And it's kind of healing those things for me has been about almost a giant puzzle of 1,000 pieces. And everything I do, every point of investigation, every healing treatment, every book, every meditation, every yoga class is another piece of the puzzle. And it just keeps filling in and filling in and filling in. And what I found with breath work, moving from acupuncture to Reiki to breath work, acupuncture to me is very elegant. It's very nuanced. It's very subtle, and it's very profound. Reiki is kind of the same way. It's very, it's soft and it's nurturing, and it's really down-regulating for your nervous system. So if you've got any trauma or any neglect, it can be really great for that, to just have somebody hold you. But for me, discovering breath work, which has just been in the last 3 years, has been a massively accelerating process for me. Working with my teacher and working with the breath has been such a crazily profound instrument for me to peel the layers off and to really be able to look at the shadow stuff and work with that and be able to like identify all the sort of like icky, not bright and shiny, like embarrassing, shameful parts of me, and then be able to like wipe them out and just clean them out with the breath. So that's been like a skyrocket for me over the last few years, to really being able to, and all the other work preceded it. All the other work like led up to this point where I could really look at myself in a clear way. But I think that's kind of the final step for most people, is being able to look at what they don't like and give it love.
Mm. Wow, it's really cool to hear someone talk about it in such a realistic way, because
Yeah.
I feel like every single person has those big life patterns and we don't really know where they come from. We can make assumptions about it, or maybe we have past life experiences that tell us a little bit about it, or we can look at, all the family karma that is stuck in our DNA and look at our current life and whatever happened there and where we live and all these different influences. But that's a lot to carry. For example, I grew up in Germany, and Germany is trauma, like 2 world wars in such a short amount of time. It's so incredibly recent, and there is so much stuff stuck in us. And sometimes I get a little bit irritated when I hear things like, oh, well, I have an affirmation for that, or oh, well, you just have to do this and then it will be healed. And I'm like, this is big thing. These are big things. And, the witch wound is real when women have trouble speaking up, when we have trouble expressing ourselves. And it almost feels like I have a big block around social media, and I'm currently working with a Reiki practitioner and family constellation therapist. So we do a lot of energy work together. And it's incredible, the shit that comes up. And it's not even my own. I'm carrying around so much stuff from other people, and so much stuff from just being a woman and having a feminine body, and what that even brings to my life. It's really incredible. And being able to recognize that it's a lot that we're carrying. It really is a lot, and it might take as long as it takes. And to have patience with ourselves, and to acknowledge that it can be an amazing teacher, but it might also whip our ass on the journey, and it is going to be hard at times. So it's really cool to hear from you that it's not just something where you can stick a needle in and maybe it's going to go away. And I'm sure there are ailments that, might be that easy to resolve, but sometimes patterns are just meant to be our biggest teachers in our lifetimes, and then we're going to have to devote ourselves to healing that over the course of as many years as it takes. So thank you so much for being so honest.
I love honesty. I mean, for me, honesty is really comforting, because there's not a lot of people that talk about the hard stuff, and like the idea that it can be a little bit grueling, because everybody wants the big wins and the big epiphanies and the big shifts. And, there are all these stories about, you'll hear someone, they'll just be like, oh, and then I just did this, and then boom, my life was different, like these big breakthroughs. Everybody wants these really exciting, thrilling feeling things in their life. And it's just like, those definitely happen. You definitely get those along the way, but a lot of it is just like being able to just put one foot in front of the other. And we're only here, like, our life purpose is to learn and heal and grow. It's like it. And any channel that you put that into, whether you're a teacher or a chef or a mother or a yoga teacher, that's just the channel for the learning, healing, and growing. But our curriculum in this life are the things that are hard for us. That's our syllabus. Like, what we carry, that's our syllabus. And it's our responsibility, and the way to find peace and the way to find joy and contentment by meeting those challenges with everything that you have and working through them. That's like when you go to college and you get the syllabus for the whole semester. We have a life syllabus. We really do. And like, if you're like, I don't feel like doing my homework, then, you're going to have a life that feels a lot harder. I think it can be so terrible. Like, doing healing work is really fucking hard. It's really challenging. But the other option, to just sort of like toe the line and just like coast along and not look at stuff, to me is so unfulfilling. I feel like it's a little, I would rather have the depths of the pain and the heights of the joy than have a life of mediocrity, like any day. Because there's so much like on the other side of all the like the pain and the pushing and the massaging, the karma is like, it's better than I've ever experienced, you know, being able to feel just a sense of levelness and a sense of contentment and self-love inside my body, and to really truly be able to appreciate myself and everything that I've done in life is just, it's like the biggest reward. Feeling purposeful, feeling passionate, feeling available, feeling like you can be of service, not feeling tapped out, feeling full. Like that's so exciting. And it's, you know, you bring that kind of energy into your family, into your partnerships, your friendships, your service. It's just amazing. It's totally, it's worth it.
Yeah. I love what you said about people wanting the breakthrough, but not necessarily being willing to walk through the darkness. And I feel like what gets us to a breakthrough is just being in the unknown, not having a clue what we're going to do, and really being in the pain of it and not knowing where it's going to take us. So I feel like every single person I know, and even in my own life, it feels like nothing's happening for such a long period of time, and we're really trying our best, and it seems like nothing's moving ahead, but then we get the big breakthrough. It's just like we sow something, and then we, you know, take care of the soil and everything, and then after a while there's going to be the big harvest. But you know, when we're sowing the seeds in early spring or winter, we don't really see what's going to happen. Exactly. And that's the tenacity that is needed for healing as well. And I also love what you said about, it almost makes me think that it's just as holy to be in the darkness and to be unenlightened and to be, you know, an unspiritual person as it is to be a spiritual person. Like any of this is part of the game. Like it's all part of the journey. Messing up, making mistakes is just as holy, is just as necessary, and can be just as good. Like right now, I'm going through a breakup, and I get people tell me oftentimes like, oh, I would love to take your pain away, and I feel so sorry for you, Hannah, and I so appreciate that. And I would never want to take this pain away. Never. It hurts, but it hurts kind of good. It has to, like, that's what it feels like when your attachments are being ripped from you, when your old stories are being taken away and we're trying to hold on. But, you know, I'm a priestess, so I call it the goddess. They say the goddess is ripping it from me, and the only pain I'm experiencing is holding on to it and not trusting the process. And so I feel like growing and healing doesn't necessarily have to be suffering, but it oftentimes is painful because we just don't know any better. We don't know how to surrender fully. And it's the purpose of the process to teach us that.
Well, you don't heal when you're comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like you don't, if you're just cool, if you're good, if you're just like coasting along, there's no need to do anything different. There's no need to make any changes. Like in order to actually heal, you have to get so shook up and so rattled by something that it forces you to do something different. Like I wouldn't have moved to New York if I hadn't had a broken heart. I would have stayed where I was comfortable. And I think breakups are one of the worst things. And I won't say I'm sorry that you're going through it, because we've all gone through it, but you have to break. Like if you do a breakup right, you're breaking up with, you know, you're breaking up with your partner. You're breaking up with the future that you had co-created together, but you're also, the third step of a breakup that so many people skip or don't want to look at is like, you have to break up with the pattern that created that relationship in the first place. And so doing that work of looking at like where, you know, where am I lacking in boundaries? Where am I lacking in speaking up for myself? Where am I, you know, where is my self-love being externally sourced? and, or whatever it happens to be, because we create these circumstances, right, to give us more curriculum, more of the learning, more of the teaching. So a breakup is a huge teaching.
Yeah, it's so good and humbling to see the part we played in it. Yeah. It's so easy because people the first question everybody I think is used to asking is like, what happened? Like, who did what wrong? And it's never that. Like, I could give you so many reasons, I could give you so many examples of how I played a part in this that wasn't necessarily, that was a pattern that was dysfunctional and that I'm really trying to heal right now. And it's not, nobody ever does anything wrong. Like, there's no one to blame ever. I wouldn't know how to blame anyone. All I know is the part I played in it and what I'm willing to release right now. And it's really humbling. It's really humbling, but it's good.
It's humbling to take responsibility. Yeah, I was thinking about, I was reading something about the victim archetype the other day, and I don't think there's a lot of people that would want to take that label, to call themselves a victim or take that role on. But it's like anytime you're blaming, then you're taking on the role of the victim, because you need to have, in order to be a victim, you have to have a villain. And the villain can be your ex-boyfriend, or it can be your mom, or it can be, the government or the country, or, all these different things. But I think that, that idea of blaming and looking outside for, oh, it was their fault, they were the problem. You don't learn anything from that. And if you don't take responsibility for your part in it, then again, you don't learn anything from that either, because then you just recreate a relationship that's exactly the same. And whatever is going on in anyone's relationships, I can see, you can probably see patterns from, I think that we, with our parents, we learn how to get love from our parents so early on. Most of these patterns start when we're 3, 4, 5 years old. They begin from our earliest memories. And so you recreate, in your romantic relationships, you try to fix it. You try to fix what didn't work with mom or dad. You do that in your friendships. People do it in their relationships with their bosses, authority figures. And so if you're healing a breakup, you're healing all your relationship patterning too. Mm-hmm. So such a good, another opportunity. Yay.
Yeah. And I realized that over the years, when it comes to grieving, I feel like the first stage in my grieving process is gratitude. Whoa. It's so incredible how I've even gotten here. I was just thinking about that yesterday. I thought, yes, this is how it's really cool that I've learned this, because now I can grieve and I can process and I can heal and I can see my patterns, and I can all do it in a space of gratitude. And this is how I can actually heal thoroughly. And before that, it was always, like you said, I was, seeing one pattern in a breakup or in some kind of life transition, and I thought I healed it, but I never really felt it in my body. I didn't use my breath. I didn't use dance. I didn't use, the physical body to actually experience it and to release it. And so I was carrying the same pattern from one relationship, from one situation to the next, and I really feel like the breath work, the body stuff, and then the gratitude as the first stage of grieving has been so incredibly powerful for me.
That's pretty awesome to go right into gratitude. Do you get anger in there somewhere too?
I'm waiting for that. But I feel like for me, anger is almost like a coping mechanism. I feel like I feel anger when I feel very sad and I can't express it. It's like the anger comes when I don't express it. And I used to feel a lot of anger in the past, and I feel like the anger that comes up for me right now is old anger. But there's not so much fresh anger because I really learned to feel it. But learning to feel it, I feel, is such a big, big, big thing. It took me years to even begin to understand that I don't have a clue how to do that. and I had to practice so much yoga, so many different styles of, free dance and Kundalini yoga and breathing stuff. And in order to really locate the emotion in my body and then learn to see it, not needing to change it so that it can be resolved by itself. So yeah, that's something I really learned. And I love that you're a breathwork practitioner, because I feel like that's something that's so easily overlooked and so incredibly transformational.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing, because when you think, like, when you hear about breathing, like I did an interview with somebody and we talked for 45 minutes about the breath, and I was like, the way that it was sort of introduced, like, why would you care? Why would you care about breathing? Like, there's no sexiness about it. There's nothing that's like, ooh, breathing, And we, for anyone who practices yoga, Kundalini, all those things, we've done a bunch of breath practices. And the breath work that I do is really about emotional release and connecting with your intuition and releasing pain. And it's pretty sexy after you do it. It's pretty, most people are like, oh my God. It's, they compare it to doing, medicine ceremonies, doing ayahuasca. It's a huge natural high. It's a huge release if you commit to it. But yeah, it doesn't have the sort of Shazam appeal of a lot of other practices. But for me, it's been the best, like, for having a channel for anger and a channel for sadness. Because I really, really had no, I tried, creative practices and writing and dancing and self-medication, obviously not one that's going to work for long term. But I tried so many other things, and the breath work was like the one where I could finally let go. I mean, I've still definitely, I work through those two emotions because I'm a very fiery person, and I do feel rage and I do feel grief. But it gave me a channel for just like the decades of buildup with it. And I find anger to be, it's one of my favorite emotions to work with people, because there's such a taboo and there's such a label, of it being a negative emotion. And I think it's like, for women especially, it's one of the most powerful emotions to like befriend and understand and be able to really work with in a way, to be able to channel anger. It's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anger is definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I work with the priestess archetypes. And the more that I discover parts of myself that I haven't expressed before, like the more that I feel anger, and just, the more that I discover my own power in so many different ways, the more uncomfortable people become around me. It's like, and I see how the society that I live in, and I live in Amsterdam, so it's a little bit different here than in the United States, but, in like a Western society, how uncomfortable it makes people, and how it's really hard to fit this in, and it's hard to be in line at the supermarket and to feel all this rage, and to, it's really interesting. And I feel like it's so easy to think that one emotion is better than another, or one is, more useful, or we should be able to manage our emotions. And yeah, it's really cool to have those tools to just let them do whatever they need to do with us, to not need them to be any certain way, to not meditate so that the rage goes away, or to not dance so that the sadness goes away, or to not, need to process something so that we're going to feel something different at the end, but to just let it do whatever it wants to do, and to trust in the intelligence of the body.
Yeah. I mean, all the emotions have messages. They're all giving you information. So if we demonize half of them as being negative, then we don't get the wisdom of those emotions. Mm-hmm. So we don't get the wisdom of fear. We don't get the wisdom of rage. We don't get the wisdom of grief. Yeah.
I love this. So I'd love to know, do you have any like life guidelines or values, principles that you like to stick to?
Wow, you're asking some big questions. I love this. Life guidelines, values. What was the other one? Life guidelines and values, that's enough. Hmm. Hmm. That's so good. That's so big. I really like to allow myself. I think in every situation, working with the idea that self-love is sourced from inside, and I can be okay even if you're not okay. I can still love myself even though I'm not being validated, appreciated, or understood. I think that encompassing sort of like thing that I don't even know if I can really articulate is just that it's this self-sourcing, the idea of like continually being able to return to yourself and treat yourself with a ton of compassion, tenderness, gentleness, kind of remothering your inner child. My personal practice is to just stay with myself, so through whatever's going on, if I'm feeling hurt, if I'm feeling chaotic, if I'm feeling like I'm coming undone, if I feel like my foundation is shaky, if I'm confronted with a situation that feels really hard for me, it's to just stay with myself, be able to like return to the steady center that I've created inside and be able to love myself through it. So that, it's like the simplest practices are the hardest to do. So I think that another part of that practice is to just like take myself off the hook. If I feel bad, I'm not going to demonize myself for it. I'm going to love myself through it. If I'm feeling something that's really uncomfortable, I'm not going to judge myself on top of that, and go, oh, you should be in a different place by now, or you shouldn't be feeling this by now. You should be farther along by now. Like wherever I am is where I am. And, when I'm working with other people, I just like to create that space of like, I think the biggest healing for me has been just being able to be seen and heard and accepted for exactly who I am. And I think that's a big healing for everybody, to be able to be witnessed and loved and held in like a nurturing, sweet space for whatever they're going through. People have it's just kind of unbelievable to me sometimes the amount of pain and suffering that people hold inside, and like what they think about themselves, and then how they beat themselves up for not being a certain way. And so my value in my work is just to be able to kind of, I guess, almost hold people in like a mothering kind of a way, and like a tender, supportive, sweet, soft space. Because I don't think of anything as being bad. There's no kind of judgments on anything. I love all the birds that are flying by while we're having this conversation behind you. I feel like there's a lot of spirit moving. There's like some blacks, some crows, I think, that are flying by right now as I'm speaking. So yeah, self-love being the beginning and the end, and, a simple space to return to within yourself. That's a big value in a life guideline for me. Just not hurting myself more, and being able to just like treat myself with tenderness and gentleness. And that's a big practice. It's a big practice. It's a moment to moment practice to be kind to yourself and just allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to be a human being without needing to be better, faster, farther along. Yeah.
Yeah. That speaks so deeply to me. I feel like I'm in the process of learning this right now as well.
Yeah.
I'm really noticing how easy it is to want to separate ourselves from what's uncomfortable, whether it's people who are mad at us or emotions or thoughts, and it's like whatever is not in agreement, we just divorce it. We say, oh no, like this is a no, you go away, or whatever it is, and we create so much separation. But I've learned that my heart only hurts when I close it, and that I'm always free to keep it open. I'm always free to love. No matter what somebody says to me, I'm always free to love them anyway. I'm always free to know that there's nothing they can do to make me love them more. There's nothing they can do to make me love them less. My love is unconditional, totally independent from what they say, and that can never be taken away. And it brings incredible freedom when we can be as messy as we are, when everybody else can be as messy as they are, when it doesn't need to be any different than it is.
Yeah. Huge freedom.
Yeah.
Moment to moment practice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Sometimes it's going better than other times, but yeah.
Yeah. And I really love working with the shadow. For me, that's a place that I found tremendous comfort by, like, just accepting those parts of myself and being able to just gather them up and give them more love too. I was reading a great article about spiritual bypassing this morning, and I find that so many spiritual practices are, I always laugh about people who, sign their emails, love and light, just because there's so much more, that is all there is. But we can't actually get to, like, a true space of that until we've looked at the opposite of it in ourselves. And so I really encourage people to be making good friends with the parts of themselves that they don't like, because that's part of, for me, that's a big philosophy in coming into wholeness as an adult, because again, childhood patterning, we learn what traits and what personality pieces of our personality win us love and affection and attention and reward. And we also are very clearly instructed which parts of us are going to receive punishment, neglect, disdain, eye rolls, silencing. And so all of those pieces of ourselves that have been sort of banished or tucked away in the dark closet of, like, oh, people don't like me when I do that. Like really, really scooping up all those qualities, those, like, little girl qualities that we have shoved away and labeled as bad, and being able to just, like, pull those back into our body and take ownership of those things, and be able to be in complete acceptance of, like, the totality of our being, rather than demonizing, pieces of ourselves.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
I love this. So we're coming to the close of our conversation. And before we do that, I would love to ask you a couple more short questions. So what's the best advice you ever received?
Oh, don't take advice from people who aren't living their dream.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Like, if you want to do something big, you cannot take any advice from someone who's not doing what you want, what you want to do.
It's so obvious, though. It's such a simple, obvious thing. It's like, if I were to want to learn something about teeth, I would ask my dentist. I wouldn't ask, like,
your grandma.
Or the lady at the deli.
Yeah.
The same applies to every single life area or situation in business. Just ask whoever's doing it already.
Yeah.
It's so funny how this is even such a big thing, but I'm just nodding like crazy over here. I'm like, yes, God. The unsolicited advice that I've received and sometimes even taken is just incredible. I love that.
It's just reflective of their fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just reflecting their own limitations.
Yeah. So funny. Even to this day, people still ask me if I'm ever going to get a real job. Like,
oh, God.
I haven't found a job yet. I'm like, I'm hiring people, okay? It makes me a little bit, like, it gives me an attitude. I get a little bit sassy when people ask me that. I'm like, I'm a CEO. I run the company. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I make the jobs.
So funny. I'm just playing around a little bit there. It's funny. I kind of love this question now. So good. What is your latest obsession?
Oh. Singing. I'm gonna go with singing. Yeah. Singing. Singing is super healing for me right now. It's awful. I kind of hate it. It's really opening up my expression a lot. I'm taking voice lessons and I am terrified and I cry the entire time basically when I go. And it makes me wildly uncomfortable, and it is pushing every single boundary that I have as far as like self-criticism, self-judgment, vulnerability, and expression. And it kills me. I hate it and I love it, but it's like there's so much freedom on the other side of it that I'm just doing it. So just working with my voice is, that's my obsession. Because there's something pretty gigantic on the other side of it. I don't know what it is yet, but it's coming, and it's so hard to get to it. Yeah. But I am obsessed with that. Yeah.
That's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite book?
Oh my gosh, I'm such a voracious reader. Wow.
First one that comes to mind.
There's a book right now that I'm reading by my teacher that I'm working through some exercises on. It's just called Healing. And it's like, it's so uplifting and so lovely. But it's also got these really concrete exercises that take you through like your experience of aggression and your experience of forgiveness and your experience of like exchange with money and attention and time and energy and resentment and your connection with nature. And I'm working through it as part of a teacher training that I'm doing right now. And it's a book that I can return to again and again and do like a little bit more. It's a healing book. I mean, it's called Healing. It's a healing book. It's really, it pushes me. So I'm really enjoying that. Oh my God, wait, no. My favorite book right now, I'll say, is my moon work book. That is by this woman, Sarah, and she goes by Goddess, GOTTESSS on Instagram. And it's my favorite way to work with my rhythms and the moon phases. That's my current favorite.
Okay, awesome. You're going to have to give me the links to those books.
I will.
In the show notes. Awesome. Thank you. That's really cool. Who is someone you admire, dead or alive?
Wow, these are so good. They're so good. I'm going to go with, oh, wow, I could pick so many people. Woo. Okay, I'm going to do this as a group. So I have learned so much from being an observer of the water protectors at Standing Rock. And so I could go for, the totality of Native American culture, the women there, the men there, the admiration for how because I think as Western people, when someone does something bad to you or hurtful or harmful to you, I think my first response is usually retaliation, responding back, hurting back, sticking up for myself, that's my natural, and maybe that's a Western thing, maybe that's an American thing, maybe that's a worldwide thing, but the idea to watch them say they throw grenades at us and we burn sage for them, like the idea of just being like just a totem of just like peace and prayer, and we'll stand here and like get abused, and then we'll continue to shower you with prayer and shower you with clearing in a way that has nothing to do with being a doormat, nothing to do with with like taking it or like being abused, but just the template that you could actually just be that magnanimous and that self-sourced and that generous that you could just stand there and just be like, yeah, still gonna pray for you, you know, from a true place, from like a really honest place, not from the space of a martyr or like, you know, you'll get yours later or anything like that. But just, I had never really seen that model before in that way, where it was like a complete value system being demonstrated again and again and again and again. Like, this is how we do this. And that I have such fierce admiration for that as like a template for how you can work with aggression and your own experience of, you know, having someone call you a name or having someone hurt you. I just, that blew my mind. They all blew my mind.
Wow. I'm getting chills just listening to you. Yeah, that is really incredible to witness.
Yeah, it was wild.
Awesome. Okay, last question. What's your favorite quote?
Oh, I don't even have, what is my favorite quote? Wow. Shoot. This is really good that you didn't prep me for these. Because I'm like, what is it? Okay, I don't have a great one. I'm not going to be able to pull it out of my brain. But this is just a truth, so I'm just going to say it. But you have to feel it to heal it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the biggest truth, and I return to that one again and again. Yeah.
Perfect. That's a beautiful close. Awesome. We've come full circle.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So since we talked about breath work today, I'm also going to include a link to a video so you guys can start practicing breath work with Erin, and that's going to be awesome. Everything that we talked about today, all the links that you might need if you want to do some research on her work, on what we talked about today, are going to be in the show notes. And please make sure to subscribe and let us know how you liked the episode today. It was really nice talking with you today, Erin. And have a wonderful week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.